YouTube, how we doing, family? It's your boy, Yo. And this is another episode of Yo Hoops. We go through every NBA game every day. Today's Monday, March 10th, and we have a 12-game NBA card. I'm going to walk you through every game, let you know which sides I like, and stick around because I'll let you know my highlighted play of the day. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your favorite games in the comment section below. Without further ado, let me get into today's recap. Recapping yesterday, we cashed. We took the books behind that woodshed. We cashed our highlighted play of the day. We took the Cleveland Cavaliers laying 9.5 points in Milwaukee against the Milwaukee Bucks. The Cavs won the game 112 to 100. But we also swept the entire NBA card. We went 8 for 8 on every game played. The parlay with the spreads, mind you, no money lines included, paid 160 times your money. $25 paid $4,000. There's only 82 games in an NBA season, guys, so I'll let you do the math on that. I'm not going to win every game, but I try and sweep every card, and it was nice to finally stack the big one. Let's go get back in that win column today, and without further ado, let me get into today's games. In our first matchup of the evening, we have the Charlotte Hornets in Miami taking on the Miami Heat. Heat are laying 9 points, and the total is 216. There's nothing here that tells me to lay double digits with the Heat. Last time these teams saw each other was on November 27th of last year, and the Heat won that game 98 to 94. That game was in Charlotte, but the Hornets have been proficient as road dogs all season. They're now 14, 11, and 1 against the spread in this spot. Like I mentioned before, they usually do just enough to cover the number. The Hornets have looked good in their last few games as well. They got that outright win against the Nets in their last meeting, and the game before that, they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers by just 1 point. I'm not necessarily in a rush to bet this one, but I do lean towards the Hornets plus the 9 as our first selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Los Angeles Lakers in Brooklyn taking on the Brooklyn Nets. Lakers are laying 7 points, and the total is 216.5. At first, I was surprised to see the Lakers as such short favorites, but their injury report is concerning here. LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, and Dorian Finney-Smith are all ruled out. Then Luka Doncic and Jackson Hayes are both questionable. On the Nets side, they will be without Cam Thomas. To me, LeBron is the engine of this Lakers team. While Luka may play here, I think the Nets at least keep this one competitive without Bron on the court. The Nets and Lakers last faced off on January 17th of this year, and the Lakers won that game 102 to 101. That game was in LA, and LeBron dropped 29, 8, and 7. Without him, I think the Nets have a legitimate chance to win this game outright, but we're taking the Nets plus the 7 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Philadelphia 76ers in Atlanta taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks are laying 11 points, and the total is 235. I haven't seen the Hawks laying double digits in a long time. Here, it is warranted, though. The Sixers travel from Philadelphia to Atlanta on the second leg of a back-to-back. They squeaked out a 4-point win against the Jazz last night, failing to cover in that one. We were on the Jazz. After beating the Pacers twice in a row, the Hawks now sit in the 7th spot in the East. We know the Sixers season is done, but the Hawks are actually playing for something now. I think they come into this one locked in and air out the Sixers in something like a 16-point win. We're taking the Hawks laying the 11 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Utah Jazz in Boston taking on the Boston Celtics. Celtics are laying 17.5 points, and the total is 229.5. Off rip, this isn't a good spot for the Jazz. They're on the second leg of a back-to-back, flying from Philadelphia to Boston for this one. The thing is, we know who Boston is coming off of an ATS win. They just got the win and cover against the Lakers in their last meeting, and in games coming off of an ATS win, they're just 14, 30, and 1 against the spread in the following meeting. Second worst in the league. Like I always tell you guys, to lay over 12, 13 points, you basically have to dominate the game from start to finish. Here, I think the Jazz do just enough to sneak a backdoor cover, so we're taking the Jazz plus the 17.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Washington Wizards in Toronto taking on the Toronto Raptors. Raptors are laying 7 points, and the total is 231.5. This is a tough one for me to analyze because both teams are extremely banged up. Looking at the injury reports, the Wizards will be without Colby Jones, Marcus Smart, Ryshawn Holmes, Chris Middleton, and Malcolm Brogdon. On the Raptors side, they'll be without Jacoby Walter, Baji, Jakob Podol, Jonathan Mogbo, and Grady Dick. These teams did just face off 2 days ago, and the Wizards won that one 118 to 117. They're shorthanded compared to Saturday, though. The Wizards are missing a few pieces for this one. To me, this is an evenly matched contest, and in that situation, I do want the 7 points in my back pocket, so I lean towards the Wizards plus the 7 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Denver Nuggets in Oklahoma City taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder are laying 9 points, and the total is 238.5. It's like deja vu. We saw this exact same matchup yesterday. We were on the Thunder, and they won that one 127 to 103. Not much changes for me in this one either. The Thunder are the much younger team, so they should have the advantage with both teams being on no rest. It looks like the Thunder are starting to fine-tune their lineup in preparation for the playoffs, and we know when they lock in, they go crazy. 20, 10, and 2 against the spread as home favorites. No need to overcomplicate this one for me. We're taking the Thunder laying the 9 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Indiana Pacers in Chicago taking on the Chicago Bulls. Pacers are laying 6 points, and the total is 241.5. The Bulls have been playing spoiler recently, competing and covering spreads in spots where they have no business doing so. Here, I think the Pacers are locked in, though. They currently sit in 5th in the East, 1 game behind the Bucks and 1 game ahead of the Pistons. 4th through 6th place are all within a couple games margin, so the Pacers know they need to win these winnable games. My only hesitation here is Tyrese Halliburton and TJ McConnell are both listed as questionable. I need to know if at least one of these guys plays, but if either do, I am leaning towards the Pacers. If Halliburton ends up playing, I'll be confident even up to Pacers laying 7.5, but for now, I do lean towards the Pacers laying the 6 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Orlando Magic in Houston taking on the Houston Rockets. Rockets are laying 4.5 points, and the total is 212. These are the 2 teams that have disappointed me the most this season, going head to head. Looking at the injury reports for this one, the Rockets will be without Amen Thompson, then Fred VanVleet is questionable, so he may return here. On the Magic side, they're still without Jalen Suggs. I'm looking at the total in this one, and for my pick, I honestly want VanVleet to play. These are 2 of the most defensive-minded teams in the league. The Magic rank 2nd in defensive efficiency, while the Rockets rank 3rd in the league. The Rockets are middle of the pack on the offensive side of the ball. They score the 17th most points per game in the league, but the Magic scored the least points per game in the entire NBA. 30th out of the 30 teams. I think both sides have a hard time putting the ball through the net here. Like I said, if VanVleet plays, this game is definitely going under 2. The guy shoots 38% from the field. Either way, I'm rocking with the under, though. We're taking the Magic and Rockets under 212 as our highlighted selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Phoenix Suns in Memphis taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are laying 4 points, and the total is 243.5. Both teams come into this one on the second leg of back-to-backs. The Grizzlies are flying from New Orleans back home to Memphis, while the Suns are flying in from Dallas. I mentioned yesterday that I do typically like to back the Grizzlies at home, but in this one, this is the case of 2 teams headed in different directions to me. The Suns currently sit in the 11th spot in the West, 2 games out of the play-in. If they want to have any hope for this year, they have to start hooping right now. We've seen the urgency as they started competing and stacking wins over their last few games, too. The Grizzlies on the other side can't defend a lick without Jaren Jackson Jr. The Suns are the older team, so the back-to-back does concern me a little bit, but I think they for sure find a way to keep this one competitive. We're taking the Suns plus the 4 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Dallas Mavericks in San Antonio taking on the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs are laying 6.5 points, and the total is 231.5. Both teams come into this one on the second leg of back-to-backs. The Spurs are flying from Minnesota back home to San Antonio, while the Mavs travel from Dallas to San Antonio. It'll actually be less travel for the Mavs here as they remain in Texas. The Mavs basically have their whole team still injured, and I don't know how I can look in their direction. The other night, they had just 7 guys in their warm-up lines for an NBA game. This isn't the rec leagues. With no rest, I don't even know how they can compete here. I don't want to lay points with the Spurs on anyone, but I don't feel like we have a choice here. It's a lean at best, but I do lean towards the Spurs laying the 6.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Portland Trailblazers in Golden State taking on the Golden State Warriors. Warriors are laying 12 points, and the total is 233. The Blazers come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, flying from Portland to Golden State. I watched the Blazers and Pistons game last night, and while the Blazers did make a fourth quarter run, they were getting dominated for basically the entire game. I do want to see if Denny Advia plays here, but he didn't go last night, and he's listed as questionable for this one. I just saw the Warriors handle the Pistons earlier this week, so if the Pistons are handling the Blazers, I think the Dubs are going to have a field day here. The Blazers are still missing DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams III, and without an advantage on the glass in this one, they probably get ran out the gym. We're taking the Warriors laying the 12 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our last and final matchup of the evening, we have the New York Knicks in Sacramento taking on the Sacramento Kings. Knicks are laying 3 points, and the total is 220. Those Kings been hoping, man. I let you guys know a couple weeks ago. In my opinion, they can make some noise in the West this season. They currently sit in the 9th spot. They've covered against the spread in 6 of their last 7 meetings. They're 6-1. The Knicks have hooped this season, and under normal circumstances, I honestly would look in their direction here, but their team runs through Jalen Brunson. He sprained his ankle in overtime 2 games ago against the Lakers, and in the lone meeting since that game, the Knicks got hammered by the Clippers. I don't know what the Knicks' identity is without Brunson, but I know the Kings have been hooping and focused on securing a play-in spot. I'm taking the Kings plus the 3 as our last and final selection of the evening. And that's going to conclude today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Yesterday was an absolutely unbelievable day for me, but I look to keep that momentum rolling. This is not the last time you guys are going to see me sweep a huge card. We're now 8-5 on our highlighted plays in the month of March, but let's continue to make it a huge one and stack those highlighted wins. I apologize for the video being uploaded a bit later. I had to be late yesterday. I was watching that Kings game to make sure we got the full sweep, and daylight savings hasn't helped me either. But I'm going to make sure to get these videos up closer to 9 a.m., 8 a.m., 7 a.m. moving forward. I appreciate the support again so much. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's your boy, Yo! And until the next one, I'm going to catch y'all. Peace.